For this tutorial, you'll need thread and needle, a pair of scissors, and the fabric that you want to mend. A running stitch is a common hand-busting stitch because it is fast and easy to do and just as fast to remove. Here are the steps to do it. Thread the needle and knot the thread. Anchor the knot in the inside of the fabric in the area you'll be sewing a line of running stitches. Place the needle through the fabric and bring it back up to the top side from the bottom side of the fabric, waving the needle in and out of the fabric. Repeat until the desired area is sewn. Anchor the thread on the inside of the seam or seam allowance and trim the thread. Remember that the running stitch is not a very secure stitch. If you want to be more secure, take very small stitches close together. Now, let's do the back stitch. A back stitch is one of the strongest hand sewing stitches. The back stitch gets its name because the needle goes into the fabric behind the previous stitch. Here are the steps to do it. Prepare the needle and mark the seam. Thread the needle with a piece of thread no longer than a yard. Longer pieces tend to get tangled and knot as you sew. Knot the end of the thread with a larger knot that won't pull through the fabric. Make the first stitch. Push the needle into the fabric where you want to start the seam. Bring the needle back through both layers of fabric just in front of where the knot is. Then, push the needle back into the fabric between where the needle went in and out of the fabric to create the first stitch. Continues to stitch. Bring the needle through the fabric the same distance you came forward when creating a first stitch. These stitches can touch each other, or you can space them a little farther apart. Continue stitching in this fashion across your seam. To finish the seam, make a few stitches right on the top of one another. This will anchor the thread like a knot. Cut an excess thread of the knot at the beginning. Blanket stitch is used for working the edge of the table covers, mental balances, blankets, etc., or for edging any other material, including clothing. Let me show you how to do it. Thread your needle and tie a knot at the end of the long thread. Choose your stitching direction. Push the needle through the cloth from back to the front about half an inches away from the edge. Bring the thread around the edge, of the fabric and back to the same spot as the first stitch. Push your needle through the loop you just made. Move a short distance to the right and insert the needle at the upper end of the line. Pull the needle through the loop that has now appeared.
This one.
Repeat this stitch through loop until you come to the end of the fabric. And last, let's do the overstitch. Overstitch is an edge finning stitch that can be sewn equally well by hand sewing as well as by a sewing machine, but for today I will show you by hand. Thread your needle with one single thread and then knot the two threads at the ends together securely. Bring up the needle to the top of the fabric.
大変集大変。
Take the needle to the back a thread away from where you come up. Take a needle to the back a thread away from where you came up. Loop the thread, dividing the two threads, to the needle at this point at the back. Pull up the needle. You will have your first overstitch. You will have to repeat the whole process again until you cover the end of the fabric.